Okay, so a little bit about what to expect this afternoon. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about is the suggested arrival and check-in procedure, as well as where FFA headquarters are going to be located. I've got some maps that we'll show you in a second. Parking, okay, this is something that the parking office sprung brand new on Naomi just a few short weeks ago. None of us have been through that process, so maybe Naomi will be able to fill in some of the gaps on that, but it's going to be a new adventure for everybody this year, so just be patient on that. The housing locations, bus loading and unloading, dining halls, checkout procedure, and then hopefully we'll have ample time for some questions and answers that you might have brought to the table today. Okay, so I do this every year, and this is mainly for folks that are not familiar with campus, have never been to FFA convention before. We're going to switch gears now and take a look at the campus map. Everybody, is my map coming up there now, or no? I got to change. I got to change which screen I'm sharing. Okay, and now okay, apparently the map doesn't want to come up when you need it to come up, so we'll go back to the PowerPoint and I'll just use some of the images that I have in there. Okay, so I'll show you this on the map in a second, okay? But registration is going to take place in Pollock Commons. So news flash for everybody that wasn't aware of this, we did not get East Halls this year, okay? So housing is going to be in the Pollock South Halls, sort of hybrid complex down at the south end of campus along College Avenue. There are two commons that are going to be involved in this year's event, Pollock and Redifer, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But check-in will be in Pollock Commons. So I'll show you on the map where that is in a second. But so Naomi called a meeting with the parking office either last week or the week prior, and we discussed this. The recommended, okay, now this is still America and you're free to do whatever you want, but understand that decisions and choices come with consequences. The recommended protocol for arriving to campus on Tuesday, June 13th is as soon as you arrive, okay, you should all already have pre-registered with the new parking system. And during that process, you would have chosen a parking garage that your vehicle is going to be housed in. That will be either East Parking Deck up by the Creamery, Eisenhower Parking Deck, sort of by Eisenhower Auditorium there, which is actually the closest parking deck to where to Pollock Halls and where the housing is going to be. And it's very important that you know the height of your vehicle prior to registering it. Okay, for vans 7 feet or under, you can select and register to park in Eisenhower. Okay, if your van is over 7 feet tall but less than 7 feet 6 inches, you can fit in East. And as many of us know from previous years, most of the school vans, not all, but most, will fit in East Deck. So during your pre-arrival parking registration, it's imperative that you know the height of your vehicle that you're going to be bringing, or all of the vehicles that you're going to be bringing, and that you choose the appropriate parking garage. Again, 7 foot or under, you can fit in Eisenhower. 7'6" or under, you can fit in East. For all vehicles 7 foot 6 inches or more, you're going to be assigned to lot 83. And I have an image of where that is that I'll show you here in a second. It's a little off the mainland, but it's not actually that bad of a walk if you have to store your vehicle there. But again, many of you will be able to fit in either Eisenhower or East. So upon arrival, it's suggested that you go park your van in the garage, in either one of those garages, right off the bat. And then you and your students can bring your luggage to Pollock Commons, and sort of camp out. There's some overhangs there. I don't think the weather's supposed to be bad because we're basically in a drought right now. But hang out, let teachers come in, get their go through the registration line, get the room keys, get your registration packet, and then take it back out to your students, disperse the room keys, and then everybody take their luggage to the appropriate dorm hall, and go get settled in. So my last bullet point here is, notice I didn't say, I'm not going to say it. All I'm going to say is that any vehicle that is left in the Pollock parking lots around the Pollock Halls dorm complexes are subject to being ticketed and or towed. I don't think they're going to tow it, but you can definitely expect a ticket if you decide to park your van in the parking lots right around the Pollock Halls dorm complex. Naomi, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this section?
I do, please. So as John indicated, the university's doing something different with parking. We are no longer going to be getting the paper permits that you're going to hang, that you're going to scan and hang on your rearview mirror. I am going to be after this call and between noon tomorrow, emailing out the parking instructions. You will have to, I'll send you a URL. You will have to log on. It's called Park Mobile. I'll send you all the information. You will have to enter in an access code, which I will give you in the email, and fill that information out. Now, I will forewarn you that you will need your license plate number. That was one thing that John and I had talked with the parking office about, because we weren't sure how folks had to request vehicles through their school district. So hopefully most of you are able to figure out which vehicle you're bringing before you actually depart your location, so that you can go in and fill that information out. If you are somebody that won't know what vehicle you're bringing until you are packing that vehicle and leaving, you can fill out, you can complete the online process. It's just much better if you do it beforehand, so that if you have questions, you can reach out to the parking office or you can reach out to me. So after this call and tomorrow noon, everybody should be getting an email through Cvent. Whoever the registrant is who went in and registered everybody will get that information. If by the end of the day tomorrow, if you're not receiving something and you're getting concerned, just reach out to us in the conferences and short course office, or you can email me, either way. And John indicated about tickets and towing. So the way that they do the enforcement of the parking now is they go around in their vehicles and they scan license plates as they drive by. So your vehicle has to be pulled in head first so that they can see your license plate. If it's not that way, they will ticket you. If you are in the wrong location, or if your vehicle is not registered, you will get a ticket. Unfortunately, the last time I got a parking ticket, it was $40. So it would get quite costly for folks if you're not registered or in the right lot. So I think that's all I have, John.
Naomi, while we're on the topic of parking, a question that I've had for a while that I keep forgetting to ask. with this new system and without a hard copy pass, how do they get out of the garage?
So if you are parking in Eisenhower, there is no automatic arm like there is in East. All of you are probably familiar with East parking deck. There's a kiosk where the arm lets you in and out. In Eisenhower parking lot, there isn't. You just drive right in and you drive right out. And they go through and they scan your license plate. Now in East deck, when you complete the Park Mobile registration online, you'll get a confirmation email if you're in East deck, and you'll need to print this out. They will have a printout that has a QR code. You can either pull up the QR code and scan it on your phone, or you can print out the confirmation that has the QR code on it, and then you can scan that to get out.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so for those of you again that may not be familiar with the layout of what we were just talking about, down here and way down here off picture is College Avenue, which sort of separates campus from downtown State College. Way down here is Pollock Commons, sort of just up Bigler Road, and then on to Eisenhower is where Eisenhower parking deck is. You'll see a whole variety of greenhouses right across the street from it. Basically, if you're down here by the Commons, or if you're coming down from the north end of campus, basically you want to turn either left or right, depending on which way you're coming, onto Eisenhower, right by the outdoor swimming pool. When you see that with the real high dive setups there, and then up further on Ag Hill, right across from East Halls, which is all under construction right now, right behind the Creamery, if you know where that is where the East parking deck is, where you'll have to park for 7'6" or under. And then I have a visual on the next slide of where lot 83 is for all vehicles over 7'6". So basically Pollock Commons is down here. I didn't circle it, but you're going to get on Hastings Road here, drive out to University. There's traffic light here. You're going to go across University, and then there's some more greenhouses and just odd buildings out here. And then you can park anywhere out in this open surface lot. That's lot 83 for anybody that has to stage a vehicle out there. Okay.
John,
Okay. Yep.
John, can I also mention really quick, if you are bringing a bus, which I think a few people did reach out to us, if you are bringing a bus, you can also park in lot 83, and you'll need to select that in the Park Mobile registration.
So Naomi, the buses should be registered as well?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Some key locations. Again, Pollock Commons is ground zero for a lot. It's where registration will be. It is where headquarters will be, in the recreation room, and the nurses station for any students that have to have medication stored, or in the event that they need some sort of first aid or anything of the sorts. The FFA nurse will be stationed in the cultural lounge in Pollock Commons. Okay. Housing, females will be in, I don't even know how to pronounce that first one, Hartsrath, Porter, Simmons, and Atherton. Males will be in Mifflin, Heister, and McElwain. Reminder to bring a photo ID to get your chapter's keys from the housing station as you go through registration. And I put an image in here Red are the female dorms. There's Porter, Hartraft, Simmons, and Atherton. Atherton is sort of off by itself a little bit on the other side of Shortledge Road. You might remember FFA headquarters and a nurse had been stationed in Atherton Hall in the past. So that is going to be used for some female dorm housing. And then Heister, however you say it, Mifflin and McElwain are sort of up here closer to the Millennium Science Complex end of this entire region. Okay. Oh, Naomi, you're muted if you're saying something.
Sorry. I just wanted to jump in real quick. We also have for male dorms, we have Shunk. Shunk Hall. It's kind of like makes a little triangle with Heister and Porter and Shunk. Yes, so that's a male dorm also. John, we have you on mute now.
Yes, you do. Bus loading and unloading for CDEs and LDEs. Tuesday CDEs that travel off campus, as well as public speakers, will load buses at the Bryce Jordan Center like we did last year immediately following the orientation. Buses will load and unload for CDEs and LDEs on Wednesday along McKean Road by Redford Commons. And I'll show you a visual of both of those here. So livestock, horse, and floriculture, I believe are only three that will be loading on Tuesday after orientation. And then all public speakers will get on blue buses, Penn State blue buses. Those will all line up here along Curtin Road outside the Bryce Jordan Center for those Tuesday afternoon events. And Wednesday, which is the major busing day, right here. So this is Redford Commons. Here's Shortledge Road. Pollock is over here, a little bit off screen. Buses will line up along McKean Road here. And Naomi, I believe, is going to have signs, I believe, that will help organize the mass student chaos.
Yes. So the buses will be coming in, they'll come down Shortledge and they'll make a left onto McKean. So at the end of McKean Hall, kind of where it says Ewing Hall, that is going to be like the front of the line. I'm going to have a table set up and I will have signs on sticks. So please encourage your students to arrive early to kind of gather in their areas so that we can make the bus loading as quickly as possible. If anybody is not sure where they need to be, please tell them that they can come over to see the staff at the table, and we'll have signs set up so that they can see.
Excellent. Great idea. We should have been doing it for years. Okay, so there's a visual. If you have some time ahead of time and you want to direct your students as to where they're going to be getting on buses Wednesday morning, McKean Road is the spot. Sort of just tell them McKean Road right by Redford Commons. Okay, dining halls and meals. Some new information this year on that. Breakfast, lunch, which as you see, that is highlighted, and dinners will be in Pollock and Redford Commons. And that will be dependent on your housing location. And I don't know anything about that. So Naomi, if you have anything more to add on how you determine which dining hall you're supposed to use, go at it.
Yep. So I don't have any more information other than the housing office will be assigning that. So whoever the teacher or chaperone is that picks up your school's packets, housing will give you that information at that time.
Okay. Makara, I just saw we had some chats. Your question was answered. Buses should be pre-registered. Yes. And Mike, I will jump back to your question in just a second after we get through the meal schedule here. So Tuesday, typical dinner in the dining halls. Everything else will be sort of on your own prior to dinner. Wednesday, breakfast will be 6 to 8, and lunch, that's the new piece this year. Lunch will be served in the dining halls, except for off-campus CDEs. Off-campus CDEs will still get boxed lunches as we did in the past, delivered to each site. But all other CDEs and LDEs that are on campus are going to take a break, or if they're wrapped up by lunchtime, lunch will be in the dining commons this year. Okay. And then dinner 4 to 6:30. The program apparently says 4:30, but it will be open a half an hour earlier than that. And then breakfast on Thursday, 7 to 9. Just a couple things to be aware of and keep in mind, especially if you're new to this. Allow adequate time. The fact that there's going to be 2 dining halls being used should alleviate some of the congestion issues, but still allow adequate time. Understand there might be a wait depending on how many people are flocking there at one time. So don't necessarily leave at the last minute if you can. Dress appropriately. If you're going to need to go right from a meal to session, well, you got to be in official dress before you come to dinner, because you're not going to have time to go back to your dorm to change. Also be cognizant of the weather. If there's a line forming outside and the clouds are rolling in and it looks like we're going to get a good thunderstorm, grab umbrellas or something. But just be cognizant of, what's to come, what the weather's doing, because it might take a while to get in, might take a while to get through lines, eat. Students may not have time, teachers may not have time to run back to the dorm and change if that was your plan. So make sure you arrive at dinner ready to roll in case you have to go right from there directly to evening session. And a reminder, the Penn State Minors on Campus dining hall policy, only 1 chaperone per 10 students is allowed to enter the dining halls. No students are allowed or permitted to enter the dining halls for any meal without a chaperone, and we can't pile 20 on one and say, can you take my students along with your students? It needs to remain in that 1 to 10 ratio of 1 adult for every 10 students at all times. Our Penn State Ag Ed students will be in the dining halls to help provide additional adult supervision and help accommodate that ratio, but groups will not be permitted into the dining halls unless they are in that ratio. Okay, and there will be all kinds of folks standing there watching for that. So please make the arrangements with other chapter advisors, with your chaperones, if you're tied up with a CDE, to make sure that your students are able to get in under the appropriate ratio. Okay.
Hey, John.
Yes.
John. Yeah, there's a couple of questions in the chat, but before we get to those, I see breakfast Thursday morning, 7 o'clock. Is there a reason why we're starting breakfast later on Thursday morning? The sessions actually starts at 8:30 Thursday morning. I'm just curious. I was just curious why we're starting so late on Thursday morning with breakfast.
Well, so I did not have a time. So I had originally they had 8 o'clock and I asked them to move it up to 7.
Yeah, probably needs to be 6 or 6:30, Naomi.
Okay, I can check with them. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, because everybody needs to be at the Bryce Jordan Center by 8:30 for the start of the session. So even if they do breakfast at 6 o'clock Wednesday morning, that'd probably work even better.
Okay, I
to
should
try
be
to get
able to
everybody
do that.
in. If we could do 6 to 8 instead of 7 to 9, that would be better.
Okay, yep, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, there's also a question in the chat about, I think we had talked about them being able to purchase lunch on Tuesday as long as you have a credit card. Is that still a yes?
So that is correct. If you want to eat in the dining halls, you can do that just as what they'll consider as the public coming in. Penn State Dining has moved to a cashless system. So you will need to use a debit or a credit card. And that also goes for any convenience stores. So there is a convenience store across from each dining hall entrance. And those do not take cash either. It's only debit or credit card. They do take Apple Pay and stuff like that also, just
Okay.
not cash.
And then John, the other question that was in the chat is about if teachers are working CDEs, but I think that was been answered. So hopefully, Jamie, that we answered your question with that one. So
Yeah, understand. We don't make the rules. Understand. We also know your situations where you're out at Shavers Creek and your students are on campus. That's why it just requires a lot of pre-planning, pre-coordination. If you have you're close to another chapter advisor that only has 3 students and you've got 6, that's a situation where you make the arrangements. Hey, could you get my kids in for lunch on or dinner on whatever day? Now for lunch on Wednesday, those will be happening by CDE. Unless the CDE has wrapped up already. And at that point, you should have something worked out for your kids to be supervised with anyway. But the lunches will be happening by CDE. So every CDE will be traveling together to go to the dining commons for lunch on Wednesday. Okay. Mike Schultz had a great question, and I want to back up to it real quick. I'm not sure where the best image I might have is. Okay. So Mike asked the U-Haul for small engines. Okay. That is going to be stationed down here in a parking stall in this Pollock Commons parking lot that I forewarned you. It's a free country. You're free to do whatever you like, but be prepared to get a hefty ticket. The U-Haul will be down in this lot for you to come and drop your engine and toolbox off in. Okay, for anybody that has a small engine team coming. So the U-Haul, the infamous U-Haul, will be in the Pollock Commons parking lot here. Okay. Okay. And if we have any questions on dining commons, and here's a visual. Again, Redifer down here right along College Avenue, and Pollock, which is where the bulk of our activities are taking place. Okay. Okay, checking out on Thursday morning. You'll return keys to the Pollock Commons housing desk. We will also be there with results packets, as well as scrapbooks. If you have a scrapbook entered, we will have those all there and ready for you to pick up as you make your exit. Remember to pick up any medications that may have been left with the nurse. She will also be in Pollock Commons in that cultural lounge again. You don't want to be leaving without somebody's medications. So after session, come on back over, swing by Pollock, and grab your results packets and medications and scrapbooks, and then safe travels home. Okay. That's all that I had formally to cover. Now is time for questions for me, Naomi, Mr. Brammer. Anything that wasn't covered that folks are unsure about. If it's your first time, you don't know what to do about. Ask for best practices, tips, advice to make your first trip smooth. Fire away.
So John, while people are kind of thinking about their questions, I just want to just make a quick comment about some of the dorm rooms and chaperones for the dorms. So we did have a large number this year of folks that either a male chaperone was listed as the chaperone for female students, which obviously can't happen in the dorms. So I know that I sent out a bunch of emails, I don't know, the end of the week. I know a lot of folks have gotten back to me, but if you're one of those folks that, one, you have listed in registration as chaperoning more than 10 students or students of a different gender, then I'm going to need you to start thinking about that, because we have to take care of that before you're actually giving your housing assignments.
John, this might be a good time too, while people are still thinking of questions to, if Sharice's on the call. I'm not sure if she is. I was kind of late joining in, but if Sharice's on the call, maybe talk a little bit about Courtesy Corps. Sharice, are you here? I'm not sure.
It was.
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, my name's Sharice Naylor, and I'm the chair for the State Courtesy Corps. Courtesy Corps probably does more work at states than we do any other time throughout the year. So this is where it becomes really important. The biggest thing for everybody to know, and this is where we'll work with Naomi, is that whoever is registered as the chaperone for each of your students individually by student is responsible for checking in those students every night after curfew. So after 11 p.m. on both Tuesday night and Wednesday night, that chaperone has to make sure that those students assigned to them are in their dorms and accounted for, and then report to the lobby of the dorm to check in with someone for somebody from Courtesy Corps to make sure that we know every student that's assigned to that dorm has been accounted for and is present as of 11 o'clock. So 11 o'clock comes, you walk the halls, you check all your kids in, then you go to the lobby. And I'm just going to pick on McCara because I can see her name right off the top here. And McCara would just say, everybody from Southern Huntington that's in Porter Hall is present and accounted for. And then we check it off. Now, McCara is also going to have male students who are going to be in one of the male dorms. And so she's probably got a male chaperone that's going to do the same thing. And if that doesn't happen, then at 11:30 or 11:40, when we finally get all of them checked off, then we have to come knock door to door on advisors and chaperones and on students to make sure that everybody's accounted for. So we don't want to do that at midnight. We don't want to wake you up. We don't want to have to do that either. That's another time until we can all go to bed. And so please just make sure you pass that word to you and your chaperones, your other advisors, everybody who's responsible for students. Also, if you're sharing with another school, so for instance, we list Mike Clark as a male chaperone for our male students, then he has to check in the Big Spring boys in the dorms that they're assigned to or in his dorm to make sure. And then again, if that doesn't happen, then we're going to go knock on Mike's door, and then we're going to call advisors, that listed on registration until we figure out that all kids are accounted for. So that job doesn't stop until we know every single student is in a dorm room, accounted for and present after curfew. So lots of questions we usually get. I told my kids I was going to bed at 10 and I've already checked them in. Can I tell somebody? No, curfew's 11. We need you to make sure they're in the rooms and in the dorms at 11, and then you can go to bed. After 11, all the dorms lock. So if kids leave the building, they can't get back in. And that's kind of the safety and security things, that we know that they're in the building when they lock down. And then if they leave after that, that's a whole different issue that we deal with. Also good to note for you and for your students to make sure they know that 11 o'clock curfew doesn't just mean we're going to start yelling louder at 11. It means the dorms locked down, they can't get in. And so then the only way for them to get in is through a security guard, and that security guard will bring them to headquarters. We'll call an advisor, we'll call the chaperones. Those students are automatically disqualified from their CDE or LDEs, including team events. And so it's just better if they're in their dorms and accounted for when curfew hits. Courtesy Corps is stationed at headquarters. So you heard John talk about headquarters a little bit earlier, in the Pollock Commons along with the nurse. And so we will be there all day Tuesday from the time we arrive, so about 9:30 Tuesday until checkout on Thursday. We try to have somebody in headquarters all the time, although there is a phone number posted for headquarters and Courtesy Corps in the program. So if you need something and you can't find a person, then you can call. Typically, that's where you would go or call for help with schedules. You can't find the buses, your kids missed a bus or missed their transportation, anything that's medical need or an emergency, lost and found, kids can't find their keys, they can't find their meal cards, they can't get in the dorms, they can't find their friend who's in their dorm asleep, all kinds of things. Of course, we handle all the discipline, and also deal with the safety and security office to make sure that students have the support that they need and that we're behaving within the realms that we're supposed to as students. Over the years, we've had issues with almost everything you can think of. So drugs, alcohol, tobacco, vaping, students leaving campus, students cheating on CDE contests, students missing curfew. We've even had trespassing where kids thought it was a good idea to play on the playground at the daycare center. So make sure they know if it's a fence, they shouldn't climb it or dig underneath it. And if there's a time posted, they should definitely abide by the time and all the rules that are posted. And we'll be good. We'll have a great week. But if you have any questions for me, I'll hang out for a little bit longer, and I'm gonna go get ready for a board meeting.
Sharissa,
Yes, ma'am.
along with the items that you just kind of listed off there, I also want to throw in there one of the things that our the person in charge of our youth programs at Penn State made us aware of last year was that a lot of the students were getting on the spin bikes, the e-bikes. All you have to do is put in a card number. It does charge them, but there was a lot of kids riding on handlebars and those sorts of things. So we would just ask that if anybody sees that, if you please make them get off the bikes. And that's something that our Penn State staff will be doing as well. Our Penn State Youth Program Coordinator doesn't want students on those e-bikes. So thank you.
Mike Clark asked a question privately, but I think it's pertinent to the entire group. So if you are bringing a vehicle that is going to need to be stored in lot 83, where should you drop people off for? And Naomi, I think that's a case where it's appropriate, where you could swing into that Pollock parking lot quickly, offload your passengers and their luggage. Hopefully you have a chaperone along that could stay with them until you go park your vehicle. Again, so that lot, or that Pollock Commons parking lot, we can't have that closed. So there's a high likelihood of many other vehicles with people permitted to be there being in that parking lot. So it's not at all like we're saying you can't drive your vehicle on that lot whatsoever. Just we're strongly telling you not to park there. But by all means, if you need to store your vehicle over in lot 83, I think that's a safe open area that you could, swing into briefly, let your passengers out, grab their luggage, and then you go move your vehicle over to lot 83. So good question, Mike.
Yeah, and also, I think there was a question too, if somebody has a bus, can they pull somewhere where they can let the students and their luggage off of the bus? And the answer to that is yes. If you have a bus, there is a bus pull-off on Pollock Road. It's kind of got like a covered little bus stop with seating. So your bus driver is more than welcome to pull into that little pull-off area. You can unload there, and then the bus can then go park, or if they're not staying on campus, then they can depart from there.
John, there's a couple of other things in the chat. Rather than try to answer them here, I just thought maybe we'd talk with them about it real quick. There's a question, Naomi, are all the dorms air conditioned? I'm assuming none of them are air conditioned, correct?
That is correct. So part of the reason we're not in East Halls is because East Halls is being upgraded, and they're doing some keyless card entry into the dorms. So Pollock and South have not been renovated as of yet. So we do not have AC. So you are permitted to bring fans. Students are permitted to bring, box fans or, something like that. They're allowed to do that. Not allowed to bring air conditioners.
Right.
But they are allowed to bring, a box fan or something like that to help with the heat if they need to.
Alex Barzidlo, if you're still on the call, there's a question about student participating in floriculture and extempt, and another one in senior prepared and dairy judging. Question is, can they still do both? Would you address that one?
Ooh, I'm trying to think where we, wait, pause. Where are we actually on policy with that right now? Because we've discussed things and written things and.
I'm sorry. Yes, so it is being allowed.
Okay.
And my recommendation has been, Brooke, hopefully you're still on the call and listening to this. My recommendation has been to get in touch with the chairs of those two different CDEs and LDEs and make sure that they both know. And in most cases, they're going to let you do the speaking event first, and then you'll have that student leave and go to their CDE that they're going to be competing in. So they would come and do the extempt, and then they would immediately leave and go to floriculture. But as long as we communicate with the chairs of those events, there should not be a problem. We have accepted that we're going to allow that this year. So we just need to kind of work that through. Kara, you had a question about, has registration for workshops for students not participating in CDEs? I'm not sure. Are you asking if registration has, what are you asking for that one, Kara? I'm sorry. Okay, maybe we can come back to that one. So make sure there was anything else in here that we missed.
Kara just responded to you in the chat. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we know what workshops are available? Well, again, that's another new item this year that we're working on. We're in the process of trying to finalize those. We know that there's going to be 2 time slots on Tuesday, and I think there's 4 time slots on Wednesday that we're actually running workshops. We will send that information out as quickly as we possibly can. As to the title of those workshops, and what they're about, I can't tell you that yet. But I do know that they're being conducted by our national officer candidate, the visiting national officer, which of course is one of ours, Jessica Herr. And then we have 3 visiting state officers coming this year from other states, and they're coming prepared to do a workshop as well. So I know that they're going to be done well, and it should be a great time, and the students would be learning something. It's just going to be just playing games. They're actually going to be learning some stuff in those workshops. So. And I'm assuming, John, that we covered orientation at 12:30 again in the Bryce Jordan Center.
I made mention of, a few CDEs being bussed from the Bryce
Okay.
Jordan Center after orientation, but I didn't discuss orientation in depth.
Okay. For those that were here last year, we did a quick orientation, 30 minutes long. It's not formal. We will do opening ceremonies. We don't have extra lights and sound and all that kind of stuff happening in the Bryce Jordan Center. But we gathered there last year at 12:30, did an orientation session, kind of laid down the law for the students. And then we dismissed them by competitions. We're planning on doing that again. We will have signs in the arena that will be placed when they enter, and they should come and sit in their career development event or leadership development event section. Hopefully the chairs will have someone there that can then lead those students out of the Bryce Jordan Center to their respective CDEs and LDEs. So that's what we're planning on making happen again on Tuesday. So 30-minute session, and by 1 o'clock, everybody's out. And then I think the first event starts at 1:30 or something like that. So just to kind of follow up since we're talking about the Bryce Jordan Center, again, 3 convention sessions again this year. There will be a session Tuesday night and Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Try to arrive obviously 6:30, 6:45. We'll try to start right on time at 7 o'clock. So it's a lot easier to find reserved seats, especially if you have a reserved seat, you want to try to get there early. So all of your award winners, if they're agri-science fair and proficiencies, they'll all have reserved seats on Tuesday night. If they're if you have an honorary or a citation award winner coming from your area, that's on Wednesday night. They will all have reserved seats, and they'll have 2 seats reserved with their name on it in case they bring a spouse or somebody else from their families. And if they don't, that's okay too, but there will be 2 seats just in case that happens. Yeah, I think that's the biggest part as far as seating. Everything else is open seating. So if you don't see a name tag on a seat, you're welcome to sit there. How's that?
Anybody have anything else they'd like to ask, not sure about, curious about?
I'll just kind of throw in, if you have, I know that it's a smaller group, but if you have a member of the nominating committee that's been working all day today, I apologize, that's why I was late. The nominating committee, we're asking to try to be in the Bryce Jordan Center. I think it's at 10 o'clock. They all have that information already. And then if you have candidates that are running for state office, we're asking them to be in the Bryce Jordan Center no later than 11:30-ish. Our plan is to try to start interviews on Tuesday, somewhere around noon or 12:30 at the absolute latest. 33 candidates this year. It takes a while. That we started the rounds today virtually. So knowing that we were going to have a possibility of having a lot of candidates, the board adopted a new policy that we would actually have the first 2 rounds of interviews done virtually. By noontime tomorrow, those first 2 rounds will be done. So then we'll finish up with those other rounds on Wednesday or Tuesday and Wednesday of convention week next week. So.
Naomi, another question. If the dining halls are determined, if the dining commons are determined by residence hall that you're in, will they split chapters if your females are in one hall and males are in another?
So they're going to try not to, but with this, obviously big of a crowd, there may be some instances where that does happen. And that's where you should have a chaperone for, 10 females should be a female chaperone and 10 males should be a male chaperone. They're going to They're gonna try the best they can. Now, Sharisa had mentioned that she is partnered up with another group. So all of those groups that are partnered up, we have given that information to housing. So they're trying to put all of those groups that are partnered up in the same dorms, in the same building, which would then lead to the same dining hall. So they're going to try their best.
Naomi, perhaps you don't know, but will it be indicated on the meal card, or how will they know which dining commons there to use?
So housing is going to be telling them. I am not sure how that's going to be indicated. I'm not sure if it's, going to be written on their meal card, or if it's going to be on a piece of paper that's handed to the teacher or chaperone who picks up the school packet. Housing will notify them. I just don't know how yet.
Good questions. Sarah has one. So there's a great point, Naomi, as well. With the CDEs and LDEs taking them to the dining halls, how does each CDE know which dining hall to go to?
Okay, so first, yes, that's a good question, kind of overall globally. So if you and your group is scheduled to be in Pollock and you end up going to Redifer because the line at Pollock may look long, the meal cards will work at both locations. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to split it up just so we don't have long wait times. But if you go to a different dining hall, they're going to let you in. It's coded to work at both locations, so it's not a problem. On Wednesday lunch, there's only one dining hall that's open, and that is going to be Pollock. So on Wednesday for lunch, sorry, my phone's going off. On Wednesday for lunch, it's only Pollock. And everybody's card will work there.
There you have it.
Naomi, just for my benefit, we did get that worked out where we know as far as being charged for box lunches, like we're not being charged for box lunches for everybody, right?
No, we are only being charged. So Jon graciously probably spent, I don't know how many hours going through everything and determining exactly how many box lunches we need.
Okay.
So we will only be charged for those box lunches, and then we will only be charged for the number of people that come through at lunch in the dining hall.
I thought we had that fixed out or ironed out. I just wanted to make sure. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Just an add-on to, I think Sharisa had asked this question earlier. There's a number of places to eat on campus. For instance, lunch on Tuesday, if you show up, prior to lunch or whatever, there's a Panera up by Ferguson building, sort of by the Palmer Art Museum. All the locations in the hub are open. So if you find yourself and students needing food over a mealtime before there is something at the Commons, there's Burger King in the hub, all of which are open limited summer hours. But there's a number of places you're free to, go to for food outside of the dining common meal times.
Jon,
Your meal card won't be activated for that. That'll just be out of pocket. I think I don't know about the hub locations or Panera, but I would assume probably card is the best way, debit or credit.
Yes, this summer it's completely cashless.
Okay, there you go.
John, can we possibly get a listing of that, like that we can send out to everybody in case they do want to have lunch on campus on Tuesday? I'm just making some notes here, some different things that we might want to send out an announcement on. I'd be happy to include that if you can get me that information.
John, I can get that from housing.
Yeah, that would be great because I can formulate the list. I just don't necessarily know what is open
Yeah,
over the summer.
Okay.
yeah, I can get that from housing and I'll
Okay.
send that over to both of you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can get that to me, we'll put it out with a bunch of other information that I'm just making notes on that we'll make sure we send out to everybody. So.
Okay.
Lots of great questions, everybody. Are there any more? I purposely overschedule meetings so I can be the awesome guy that ends them early. If there is nothing else, no other questions or no other information that anybody has to offer, I feel good at a point that we can call ourselves done. But if you do have a question or something that you'd like to offer up, please feel free to do so. I'll remain on till everybody else is dismissed. But if you have nothing, we'll see you next week. Safe travels. I will try to get it uploaded to our YouTube tonight, Joan, but most likely we'll probably be sending out in the morning. Oh, you're muted, Joan.
I had a continuing education thing at school, the dentist, and this literally simultaneously. So
Of course.
as quickly as I could. I guess my question would be, what is different than it has been in past years? Because I've been there